Welcome to Daytime Ottawa here on this Thursday. I'm Derek. This here's Lois.
Hello.
How are you? Also talking to a wonderful author, Roy Mayer, on the show today. His book is called Galahad Cried, and you may recall walking down Wellington Street in front of Parliament Hill and seeing this beautiful statue. Not many people realize what that statue represents. Roy's book tells us what it represents, and he's going to share his story with us today.
Yeah, this is actually a story about a statue that is the only statue on Parliament Hill that is of a non-political figure, and is not of someone who is a member of the monarchy. So that's quite unique, and it's right at Metcalfe and Wellington, I believe.
That's right.
Yeah. We're
Welcome back to the show. We touched on it on the top of the show, this beautiful statue that people walk by each and every day, and not a lot of people take time to stop and find out what that statue represents. Well, our next guest did just that when he was around 10 years old. We're joined by author Roy Mayer, author of Galahad Cried, your fifth novel now. Congratulations on the novel, first of all.
Hi,
Roy. And let's talk about, you're 10 years old, you walked back and forth from school, and you kept passing this statue, and then one day you decided to find out about it. What does this statue represent?
Well, what could be more captivating than seeing a statue of a knight in shining armor, gazing off into the pleasantry of the distance? And anyway, I thought, who is this fellow? And I looked it up at school. Sir Galahad was a hero in a poem by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Why do they have Sir Galahad in a statue just outside of Parliament Hill? That was really kind of unusual, I would think. So I asked my teachers, and of course, they didn't know.
Right.
They sort of avoided the whole
A little embarrassing for them.
Yes. And I asked my mother, and she knew all about it. She remembered that this young fellow had tried to save the life of a young lady who was drowning in the Ottawa River, and he drowned along with her. And the city of Ottawa was so grateful that they raised money, little kids and merchants, and Nicholas Sparks' kids, and Mr. Lapointe, a fishmonger. I mean, all over the city they came up with, quarter, 50 cents, $2, and so on. And the city itself, the people of the city, thought so much of this fellow for what he'd done around the city. He'd gained quite a reputation, even though he's just a young guy. He was only 26 when he died.
Right.
But he had worked in newspapers all over Ontario and in Quebec and Montreal, and wrote editorials about on national issues of considerable significance. The guy was a genius, I guess.
And Sir Galahad is sort of a representation or a metaphor for the type of archetype and character that was embodied in the gentleman you're talking about. His name was Albert Harper.
Bert Harper, yes. Henry Albert Harper. And he went by the name of Bert. And his family called him Bertie. That was, written on his photographs, in his archives. And I got a lot of information about him in his archives. At any rate, I decided to write a short story. And so in order to do that, I thought I'd brush up and get more information, and did research. And it got so deep that I realized, hey, this is a book. This is a real book. This is a fantastic story. And what he did, the reason that Galahad is the personification is that he always had a photograph,
Or I'll grab this one for
a
you.
copy
so that
of the etching by George Frederick Watts, made in 1870s, on his wall to remind people to be chivalrous and honorable. And when he passed away, William Lyon Mackenzie King, who had been a friend of his at school, the two of them orchestrated a student strike at the University of Toronto. He was so enraptured by this fantastic deed, and he knew Bert very well, that both of them were chums, that he was the one who inspired that it be of Galahad.
Right.
And he wrote a book entitled The Spirit of Heroism. And in the book, it's very difficult to read because he wrote in sort of bureaucratese, it was all over the place and really hard to read. But I ended up being able to get through the whole thing, and the one thing that I centered on was the fact that Bert always had this picture of Sir Galahad in his office. And there's a picture in the archives that actually shows all of the pictures, and I wasn't sure if one of them might have been Galahad. You just couldn't tell; they're too small.
Right.
My wife is a jigsaw aficionado, eh?
Right.
And she looked at it and she says, "That one right there, that's Galahad." So I had to enlarge. There it was, eh?
It's amazing. Well, what a great Canadian that many of us don't really know a lot about, and thankfully you've come out with this great book. Tell people at home where they can get a copy of the book.
Well, it's on Amazon. It's around the world. It's all around the world. It's fantastic.
Excellent.
Australia, England, Scotland, United States. Just look up Galahad Cried,
Okay.
Google it, and it'll put you on there. And all of the millions of people that have gone by the statue in Ottawa over the last number of years will be able to find out.
They finally know
Now
who
they'll
this
know.
guy is. Roy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Oh, it's a real
Congratulations.
pleasure.
Roy
Thank
Harper,
you.
his 5th novel. It's called Galahad Cried. We're running out of time here, so I want to mention we got a great show for you tomorrow. We have a holistic nutritionist.